Hello again. It has long been observed that African Americans in the United States and those of Pakistani heritage in Britain, to give two examples, have lower life expectancies than the majority white population. This is routinely attributed to inequalities in healthcare, differing standards of living, both of which are supposed to be associated with racism, and both are allegedly having their roots in the phenomenon of slavery and colonialism. The idea that ill health and early death might be connected with the behaviour of ethnic minorities themselves is anathema to liberal and left-wing people, and the very suggestion is dismissed as being racist. Let us begin by considering a particular minority in Britain. Approximately 3% of the British population is of Pakistani heritage, that is to say people who were either born in Pakistan or born to parents whose families have their origin in that country. The infant mortality rate among members of this community is double that of white British babies. A shocking figure indeed. Is this evidence of the cruelties of colonialism, though? Maybe if we tried to see what caused the exceptionally high infant mortality rate in this community, we might gain some insight into how much of what happens to people of minorities is caused by racism and how much is a product of their own actions. The infant mortality rate for babies of Pakistani origin born in Britain is combined with a very high number of stillbirths in which a baby is born dead. This too is running at twice the national average. Not only that, but babies born to parents of Pakistani heritage in Britain account for a third of all babies with genetic birth defects in the country. Just reflect for a moment on this figure. 3% of the population have 33% of the babies with genetic defects. A baby born to parents of Pakistani heritage is roughly 10 times more likely to be born with genetic defects, which in many cases lead to disability and a shortened lifespan. Could this really be a legacy of colonialism or a product of racism? As a matter of fact, the high rate of infant mortality, stillbirths and children with disabilities and life-limiting conditions is something which is being inflicted upon those babies not by racism but by the families themselves. Over half of all marriages in Britain between people of Pakistani heritage are between first or second cousins. Cousin marriages are a terrible idea, and although legal in Britain, are the object of a popular taboo as steering closer than is comfortable to incest. Very few marriages in Britain between white people are between cousins, roughly 1 in 25,000. Cousin marriages greatly increase the chances of genetic disorders and subsequent stillbirth and children dying before their first birthday. Turning now to the United States, we observe that African American women have the highest rates of obesity or being overweight compared to other groups in the United States. 4 out of 5, roughly 80% of African American women are overweight or obese. People who are overweight are more likely to suffer from high blood pressure, high levels of blood fat, diabetes, all risk factors for heart disease and stroke, and likely to lower their life expectancy, of course. Incredibly, there are still many academics in America who blame the lowered life expectancy of African Americans as being part of the legacy of slavery, which of course ended almost 200 years ago. People who marry their cousins or eat too many hamburgers are not latter-day victims of slavery or colonialism. They are rather individuals who are likely in the future to suffer the ill effects of their own foolish and ill-considered lifestyle choices. In a free country, and where the law does not forbid it, I should of course be quite free to marry my cousin and have children by her if I wished to do so. In the same way, should I wish to eat unhealthy foods to excess or drink whisky too frequently, these are also courses of action which I should have the liberty to take. However, as with any choices which we make, there might be downsides to being a greedy and immoderate eater. One of these is obesity, and the others are heart disease and strokes. Overindulging in alcohol can be harmful, while marrying a close relative might harm any children we have. To blame the natural consequences of the actions which we as free human beings take on racism or on events which took place 2 or 3 centuries before we were born will strike many people as quite grotesque.